All right, number 14. Geologists recently discovered marks that closely resemble worm tracks in a piece of sandstone. Okay, so geologists recently discovered marks that closely resemble worm tracks in a piece of sandstone. Okay, so we have these tracks in the sandstone. These marks were made more than 500 million years earlier than the earliest known traces of multicellular animal life. Therefore, indicator word, the marks are probably, so probably is weak, but it's part of the conclusion. Therefore, the marks are probably the traces of geological processes rather than of worms. All right, so we have to ask ourselves, is this an argument or a set of facts? It's an argument. What claim is the writer trying to make? And it's this idea that the marks are probably the traces of geological processes rather than of worms. So we're trying to say that these traces, or that these marks are from the geological process rather than the marks coming from worms. Whenever we read our question stem, we see that it is a weakened question. So what is our goal of weakened questions? We're trying to find an answer choice that if we were to add it as a premise to our stimulus, it would weaken our argument. So we're trying to weaken this idea that the marks are probably the traces of geological processes and not worms. So how can we weaken that? Either by strengthening the idea that it is from geological processes or showing another example of why it's not from worms. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with answer choice A. It is, once more, weakened questions. We tend to look for stronger wording, which for A, it says, it is sometimes difficult to estimate the precise age of a piece of sandstone. Too weak. Going to cross that off. B, geological processes left a substantial variety of marks in sandstone more than 500 million years before the earliest known multicellular animal life existed. So I wonder if some people did pick answer choice B. And I think that this actually strengthens the argument because it is showing that the geological processes left a substantial variety of marks in sandstone before we knew that this life existed. So we're actually strengthening the argument overall. There were some early life forms other than worms that are known to have left marks that are hard to distinguish from those found in the piece of sandstone. Once again, if anything, I think this one does strengthen it as well. It shows that even if life existed back then, the marks might have been made from other life forms, not worms. D, at the place where the sandstone was found, the only geological processes that are likely to mark sandstone in ways that resemble worm tracks could not have occurred at the time that marks were made. All right, so I love answer choice D because one, it's saying only, so that's really strong wording, but it's saying wherever the sandstone was found, the only geological processes that could have made these marks in the way that resemble a worm could not have occurred at the time the marks were made. So we're saying like, hey, it probably is not the traces of geological processes that caused it. No, this answer choice isn't guaranteeing that the marks are from worms, but it still allows it to be a possibility. So we're definitely weakening this argument that the marks were from geological processes and not worms. And last E, most scientists, so most more than 50% of scientists knowledgeable about early animal life believe that worms are likely to have been among the earliest forms of multicellular animal life on Earth. But evidence of their earliest existence is scarce because they are composed solely of soft tissue. I don't think that I think this is irrelevant. Even though worms were the earliest existence of life form, they still might not have existed at the time that these marks were made. So E is irrelevant, and that is why D is our answer choice.